Shalom, family.
Shalom.
And welcome to another new moon observance. Tonight's class is entitled Being Completely Fed. The thing about most of us is when we sit down to have a meal, we just throw a bunch of stuff on our plates and we eat. Hardly any of us ever thinks about what is a balanced meal. Whether we have too much greens, too much meat, too much dessert, we just indulge. At the same token, we also don't look at the spiritual balance as we're getting food. So let's see if we can cover a bit of that tonight. Tonight we're going to begin in Jeremiah chapter 5. Jeremiah chapter 5. Begin at verse 1.
Jeremiah 5 and 1. Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if you can find the man, if there be any that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it. And though they say, Yahweh liveth, surely they swear falsely. O Yahweh, are not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not grieved. Thou hast consumed them, but they have not refused to receive correction.
Refused to receive correction. Go ahead.
They have made their faces harder than a rock. They have refused to return. Therefore I said, surely these are poor. They are foolish, for they know not the way of Yahweh, nor the judgment of their Elohim. I will get me unto the great men, and will speak unto them, for they have known the way of Yahweh, and the judgment of their Elohim. But these have altogether broken the yoke, and burst the bounds. Whereof a lion out of the forest shall slay them, and a wolf of the evening shall spoil them. A leopard shall watch over their cities. Every one that goeth out hence shall be torn in pieces because of their transgressions, because their transgressions are many, and their backslidings are increased. How shall I pardon thee for this? Thy children have forsaken me, and sworn by them that are no mighty ones. When I have fed them to the full, they then committed adultery, and assembled themselves by troops in the harlots' houses.
And there we go. When we're fed to the full, that's when we transgress. He also states that their children have forsaken me. How did the children end up forsaking Yahweh Elohim? Through the parents, because they weren't taught properly. So we're not doing a good job. The children are falling off. But he said, when I fed them to the full. But is it just that meat that he fed them with? Or is it also the spiritual food? Because up to this point, we were also given standards of how we were supposed to conduct ourselves. But did we take heed to that spiritual food and do what we were supposed to do? Or is he just talking about the food that's going into your belly? Go ahead.
They were as fed horses in the morning, everyone nigh after their neighbor's wife.
Made after his neighbor's wife. Now, I don't know how many people have actually been around horses. When the neighing gets loud enough, it actually sounds like a whistle. So when he's saying they neighed after their neighbor's wives, you think of a man whistling at another man's wife. We became so full that we became full of ourselves, to the point that we became disrespectful to each other. Go ahead.
Shall I not visit for these things, saith Yahweh? And shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? Go ye up upon her walls, and destroy, but make not a full end taken away. Her battlements, for they are not Yahweh's. For the house of Israel and the house of Judah have dealt very treacherously against me, saith Yahweh. They have belied Yahweh, and said, It is not he, neither shall evil come upon us, neither shall we see sword nor famine.
And that's what we hear nowadays. God isn't mad with you. So then we go about our day carelessly, not thinking that anything's going to come upon us. Thinking that everything we do is fine, just as long as you get your baptism in Jesus. Everything's going to be okay. But we're being set up for a fall. As we sit here and we come in week after week, it's sad to say that it's not penetrating everyone. Go ahead.
And the prophets shall become wind, and the word is not in them. Thus shall it be done unto them.
And those are the prophets that we see. Prophets for profit. So what they telling you is wind. Oh, you gonna be good in business. Oh, you gonna make money. How is that any profit to you? How does that profit your salvation? While they getting rich off everybody. So as he states, what they're prophesying is wind. Go ahead.
Wherefore thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of hosts, because ye speak this word, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. Lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far, O house of Israel, saith Yahweh. It is a mighty nation, and it is an ancient nation, a nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understandeth what they say.
And we already know what this means. We're in the midst of that nation. We're surviving this, or trying to survive this. So we know that this portion was not some far-fetched thing that's yet to come. Go ahead.
Their quiver is as an open scepter.
Sepulchre.
Sepulchre. Their quiver is as an open sepulchre. They are all mighty men.
That means their quiver, their boat is like an open grave. They taking lives. Just open the graves up and dump the bodies in. And we know there's many unmarked graves throughout this country with our bodies filling them, stacked on top of each other. Go ahead.
And they shall eat up thine harvest and thy bread, which thy sons and thy daughters should eat. They shall eat up thy flocks and thine herds. They shall eat up thy vines, thy fig trees. They shall impoverish thy fences, cities wherein thou trustest with the sword. Nevertheless, in those days, saith Yahweh, I will not make a full end with you. And it shall come to pass, when ye shall say, Wherefore doth Yahweh our Elohim all these things unto us? Then shalt thou answer them, like as ye have forsaken me, and served strange mighty ones in your land. So shall you serve strangers in a land that is not yours. Declare this in the house of Jacob, and publish it in Yehuda, saying, Hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding, which have eyes, and see not, which have ears, and hear not. Fear ye not me, saith Yahweh? Will ye not tremble at my presence, which have placed the sand for the bound of the sea by perpetual decree, that it cannot pass it, and through the waves thereof toss themselves, yet can they not prevail? Though they roar, yet they cannot pass over it.
Now, we watched a video a couple weeks ago on the Shabbat, and we see how Yahweh can allow it to pass those boundaries. We see the devastation that can take place. But for us, it's not a reality because it's not in our backyard. But then those people see it, but they don't see it as the works of Yahweh. It's just some natural disaster. So, hey, they rebuild and they keep going, life as usual. But there's a big disaster coming that's going to wake everybody up, including all of us sitting in this room. But we need to start learning from those examples instead of waiting until it touches our backyard. Go ahead.
But these people have a revolting and a rebellious heart. They are revolted and gone.
Let us be not those people. Go ahead.
Neither say they in their heart, let us now fear Yahweh our Elohim, that giveth rain, both the former and the latter, in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. Your iniquities have turned away these things, and your sins have withholden good things from you.
So if we're here suffering, some of us are making it and think we got it made. What is there really waiting for us? As we can see in this place, there's a ceiling. You're only going to get but so high. So what is there that's better waiting outside of these homes that we have and these jobs that we have? I would like to know. He says he's got something better reserved. But see, some of us are content with what we have, to the point that we'll trip another brother or sister thinking that we that much better than them just because we got a little something. But when Yahweh takes it away from you and you're on the same level as everybody else, let's hope that brother or sister don't remember that and turn their backs on you. Yahweh said there'll always be the poor amongst us. That means we all have a duty to look out for the less fortunate. But some people would rather use the less fortunate to get ahead. Go ahead.
For among my people are found wicked men. They lay wait as he that setteth snares. They set a trap. They catch men.
He didn't say among the nations. He said among my people. Among my people. So that means as we all sitting in the room amongst my people. So I think we all need to make some self-checks, look left, look right. Go ahead.
As a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. Therefore they are become great and waxen rich. They are waxen fat, they shine, they overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge.
And how do they prosper? By using the less fortunate, by using those around them. But in the end, is this prosperity going to be worth it? Go ahead.
Shall I not visit for these things, saith Yahweh? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? A wonderful and horrible thing is committed in the land. The prophets prophesy falsely, the priests bear rule by their means, and my people love to have it so. And what will ye do in the end thereof?
And the reason why we love to have it so is because we figure if we're around these people, one day we too might get it. But you got to realize that there's another level of deceit in most people that if that's not in you, you're not going to accomplish it. I don't care how much you hang around them. If you're not built that way, you're not going to accomplish it. I remember being down and out, not having a job, and praying. And at the time, I didn't know who Yahweh was. But the one thing I asked is, can you allow when my finances grow, that my spirituality grows? So there's a balance there. I didn't know what I was praying for, but that's what I prayed for. Some people just want the finances as they become more horrible people. Now, there's a thing called postprandial somnolence. That's the scientific term for the effects of how you feel after a big meal. It's that drowsy feeling that comes over you, also known as a food coma. We call it niggeritis.
I was waiting for you to come back. I ain't never called it that. I don't know what that is. I know about the itis.
And it's a real thing. A coma is a prolonged state of unconsciousness. Comas are caused by an injury to the brain due to increased pressure, bleeding, loss of oxygen, or buildup of toxins. The injury can be temporary and reversible, but it can also be permanent. We have been in a spiritual coma for a long time as a people because we allowed the pressure from the nations that Yahweh left around us and their pagan worship to get the best of us. It is this same pressure that eventually has spread so deep within us that it has become toxic to us and to all nations. Yahweh be praised that He has allowed for a spiritual awakening, and for some of us, our coma is the temporary type, and Yahweh is helping us to reverse the effects. But sadly, there are those whose injury is permanent, and there is no help for them. Let's go to Numbers chapter 11. So will we be able to recognize the people who are not going to come out of that coma, who can't come out of the coma? Because when you're in a coma, you're still living. You're still alive. Can we recognize the people that's walking around in a coma? Numbers chapter 11, start at verse 1.
Numbers 11, verse 1. And when the people complained, it displeased Yahweh. And Yahweh heard it, and His anger was kindled. And the fire of Yahweh burnt among them, and consumed them that were in the utmost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto Yahweh, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of Yahweh burnt amongst them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat?
I want y'all to realize something. It says the mixed multitude that was among them, among the children of Israel, when we came out of Egypt, right? They fell a lusting. And the children of Israel also wept. But then we took it a step further. We started asking the question. We took it upon ourselves to take their problem out verbally. Who's going to give us flesh to eat? Hey man, if y'all got a problem, why don't y'all take it to Yahweh? We took it upon ourselves. We still do that to this day. We jump into everybody's causes. Want to go help this people and this nation and that people. And then when we turn around, they're backed off and we left there holding the bag. We always picking up somebody's fight. Man, the mixed multitude was lusting. But we go, who gonna give us flesh to eat? Okay, y'all brave. Who got the greater punishment in the end? I don't hear nothing about the mixed multitude getting the punishment that we got. Go ahead, bro.
This is also how Israel ended up getting used, because people know that Israel gonna run and go do something.
Right.
So somebody come up with a little, idea or something that they not gonna run up to Yahweh, or they not gonna run up to somebody else and say. So they'll hand that idea off to somebody else. Let them take the idea, and then when that thing get dealt with, folks don't understand. You the one gonna catch on fire.
Yep.
Because you the one that took that mess up to Yahweh. And folks need to learn how to, just sit still. Say, oh, that's a good idea. Go tell him.
But see, that's the
a
thing.
real good idea. Go tell that guy right there.
We don't stop and look at that. I had a situation when I was younger. Some of us too brave for our own good. All right, when my partner, situation happens. This man's got a licensed gun. I'm a teenager. He hands me the gun. Okay. It took recapping some time after and go, why did he give me that gun? Then I sat there and said, oh, because he know he wasn't going to use it. I would have. But now as I'm sitting here talking to y'all, he was of another nation. He was a Chinese. So you see how we get used? And he's licensed. It's legal. But why are you giving it to me? Oh, so I can carry out the deed. Go ahead.
We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic.
Now we start naming out food. They was just lusting. All you heard is they was lusting. But now we start naming out the food. See how we just took this and ran with it? You don't hear nothing you don't hear that they joined in with us. You didn't hear that they mentioned nothing about it. We just took it and ran with it. Go ahead.
But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as coriander seed, the color thereof as the color of the bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it and ground it in mills or beat it into a mortar and baked it in pans and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it.
But even in verse 8, what you get is an example of what we do. We make something out of nothing. We survive. We make it into a delicate. You heard they made cakes. And before this, we didn't know what manna was. But somebody said, hey, you know what? I'm going to grind it up. Somebody else said, I'm going to throw it in the pan. Hey, let's try to bake it. That's us. We going to take nothing and make it into something. We going to eat and survive and keep moving. But we let other people get in it. And then we start, oh, you know, that looks interesting over there. Instead of dealing with what we have in front of us. Go ahead.
And Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in the door of his tent. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled greatly. Moses also was displeased. And Moses said unto Yahweh, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all the people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them? That thou hast say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child unto the land which thou swearest unto thy fathers.
Now, earlier in the prayer, priest Esaac mentioned starting from his house. A lot of people here don't understand what we have seen, what we have gone through, people coming and going. And when you sit here and you listen to what Moshe is going through and what he's talking about, if you haven't lived it, you can't be sympathetic to what this man is going through. When you sit down and you watch people that come through the door from day one, knowing in their heart they're just here to use, but you sit back and you wait for it to happen, and they never see themselves and move along. When you see people that come and smile and they know they got an agenda that, hey, I'm just here to take a couple of your pamphlets, but I'm going to stick around long enough for you people to think I'm with you and be gone. The stuff is free. All you had to do was ask for it and say, hey, man, I just want some of y'all literature, and turn through the door. I mean, you guys would not understand people showing up just to eat. We had a brother one time, the brother came in from another function, got here late, but in time to eat. And then said, hey, when I leave here, I'm going to grandma's house because grandma do some good cooking. Unless you're really observing, you don't understand how sad it is trying to reach people, trying to teach people who have come through the door with different agendas, who think they're fooling the people sitting at the head, but they're just fooling themselves. Why waste your time? Why try to provoke the saints? Why try to provoke the people who are trying to actually walk, who are trying to get spiritual food, who are trying to be balanced? As you see it as jest, you will have to deal with it one day. Go ahead.
Whence should I have flesh to give unto all these people? For they weep unto me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand, if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. And Yahweh said unto Moses, gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there before with thee.
All right, my brother. And here it is. Now Yahweh's got to get help for this man, just to keep him encouraged to keep going on. So at this point, then you can turn around and kind of bounce off of these people, and they can start to help you balance. So these people are now having to deal with the same issues that he's having to deal with. Yet we never hear about what they have gone through. Because at the end of the day, although they're there to help him, the big bulk of the burden still falls on him. A few people come in and see a need and jump right out and help. You got others who come in and it's like twisting an arm to get them to do something. Everybody quick to sit at the table, but everybody ain't quick to clean up. People come in with demands on top of what they want. But you say clean up, they out the door. The only way you can get them to help is if you force something on them. This is Yahweh's house. How many people stop to say, you know what? Let me help to clean up Yahweh's house before I leave. Honestly, take a look. That media room is being ran by children. The children have stepped up to do works. While there's some adults that come through the door to feast and make merry and right out the door. There's other people that come through the door with their family day one and they're asking, where can I help? How can I help? And I'm talking about the whole family. You don't see them pushing their child to say, hey, maybe you should go. No, the child going one way and trying to help over here. One adult going that way, other adult going that way. And there's folks darting through the door. And if you do put them in a corner and ask them for something, they want to tell you how they going to help. And in the end, you probably wish you didn't ask them to help. Because the help is so minute that you realize you didn't get any help at all. These children are doing a job, and I hope we all remember, it's the children that got into the kingdom, not the parents. So please be careful how you mess with these little children that are learning to do the servitude of Yahweh in Yahweh's house. It says, unless you become like little children. So they're still being capable of being taught. We're all supposed to be servants. So please, when the little children are doing their job, remember that they're getting it. They're understanding what's necessary. Or does it make some of y'all feel some kind of way that they're stepping up to the plate? Don't make their servitude intimidate you. Find something to do. Ask where you can help. But once again, please remember, it's the children that made it in. So be careful how you mess with these little children in here while they're doing their job. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 8. Children are going to do what they see the parents do. Some of them might not step up right away, but believe me, they watching. You got little Raella running around here wanting to get the vacuum. You got adults running away from the vacuum. How old is he? 3 years old. He'll ask you, can he vacuum? Verse 1. That's Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 1.
All the commandments which I command thee this day shall you observe to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which Yahweh sware unto thy fathers. And thou shalt remember all the way which Yahweh thy Elohim led these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee, to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or not. And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger, and fed thee with manna, which thou knew not, neither did thy fathers know, that he might make thee know that man does not live by bread alone.
Man does not live by bread alone. So he took them things away to purge you, to show our fathers, I am what you need. I am your sustenance. I sustain you. This manna was to help purge all that other stuff out of you. I'm trying to balance you out. I'm trying to get you to where I need you to be. But we can see what took place out there in the 40 years. Murmurings, complainings, partying. And like I just said, in the end, who went through? The children. Because we just couldn't get it. We just couldn't understand what it means to become like little children. Go ahead.
Man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Yahweh doth man live.
Are we getting that balance? Are we getting that balance of physical food and the food that comes out of Yahweh's mouth? How many of y'all ever seen birds feed their babies? So you understand the food is coming directly out of the parent's mouth. Yahweh is trying to feed us. But are we so busy being completely fed with physical food that's actually killing us and harming us? Are we learning to get that balance and allowing Yahweh to feed us as well? But not only just feed us, change us, shape us, direct our steps. Are we allowing these things to happen? Go ahead.
Lost my thought. For your raiment waxed not old upon thee, neither did thy foot swell these 40 years. Thou shalt also consider in thine heart that as a man chasteneth his son, so Yahweh thy Elohim chasteneth thee. Therefore thou shalt keep the commandments of Yahweh thy Elohim, to walk in his way and to fear him.
And please remember, if you're not receiving chastisement, you're a bastard. Which simply means you're Lucifer's child. So if you're riding on your high horse and you surviving and you making it and you ain't going through nothing, you ain't got to look around. You already know where you're at and who your father is. But while you're riding on your horse, let the saints be. Let the saints do their jobs. Go ahead.
For Yahweh thy Elohim bringeth thee into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains, and depths that sprung out of the valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of oil, olives, and honey.
I mean, even pomegranates. We're in the Old Testament where it's mentioning pomegranates. Most of us have recently been introduced to pomegranates. We have not been eating. We think we've been eating food. We don't know anything. It's like I said, we don't even know what a balanced meal is. A lot of people go on what they call diets and fall off their diet. Why? That balance. They don't want to keep up with whether it's counting carbs or with portioning their meals. It becomes too difficult, so people say, whatever, I'm going to go back to what I'm used to. But we are not eating balanced meals. It's sad to say, we don't know what real food is. I mean, I'm being honest. Pomegranates was something new for me too. But look where we're reading this, in Deuteronomy. And America told us what? It's a superfood. It's a new superfood. No, it's not. It's old. So everything that the Western world finds out from the East, this new superfood. And then we go into the book. Hey, leeks, I learned here as well. Okay? And I like leeks. So let's understand how deprived we are. At least we really think we're something or somebody. We don't know anything. We're still learning. But in the midst of learning, we also need to learn to be humble. You can't come through the door not willing to do anything, but wanting everything. You walk in with a 120-page college rule notebook with questions. I got questions and I want answers. And we need workers. Are you willing to help? I'll see you next Shabbat. I got some more questions. Go ahead, man.
Deuteronomy 8, verse 9. A land wherein thou eat bread without scarceness, thou shalt not lack anything in it, a land whose stones are iron, and out of those hills thou mayest dig brass. When thou hast eaten and art full, then thou shalt bless Yahweh thy Elohim for the good land which he hath given thee.
And we know this was not true. When we ate and we were full, that's when we turned our backs on him. Go ahead.
Beware that thou forget not Yahweh thy Elohim, in not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I have commanded thee this day. Lest when thou hast eaten and art filled, thou hast built goodly houses and dwelt therein. And when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold is multiplied, and all thy hast is multiplied, then thine heart be lifted up, and thou forget Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage.
And you got to think about it. When we eat and we full, we're lazy. I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to be bothered. So you got to understand why even going through the wilderness, on the journey, would it have made sense for us to be fed to the full? When the cloud moved, you need to move. Oh man, bro, I don't feel like it right now, brother can't move. He gave you enough to sustain you, to keep you going, to keep you moving. At least the itis come in. But now we want to get with these other folks over here who shouldn't have been with us in the first place and pick up their problems and take it to Yahweh. Go ahead.
Who led thee through the great, terrible wilderness, wherein were fiery serpents and scorpions and drought, where there was no water? Who brought you forth water out of the rock of flint? Who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which thy fathers knew not, that he might humble thee, and he might prove thee to do thee good at thy latter end?
And that's the thing. We always hear about the manna, but we keep seeing that right behind manna. Why he gave you the manna? To humble you, to prove you. Every time we read about the manna, he gave it to you to humble you, to prove you. Go ahead.
And thou sayest in thine heart, my power and the might of mine hand hath gotten me this wealth. But thou shalt remember Yahweh thy Elohim, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore unto thy fathers, as it is this day.
So as we're getting in this country, do we realize it's Yahweh that's allowing these things to happen? If you're a saint, if you're a servant of Yahweh, you should acknowledge this fact. But even with giving wealth, he said you will always have the poor amongst you. What does that mean? It wasn't meant for us all to be rich. It wasn't meant for us all to be wealthy. But at the same token, you were given so you could help. So are you a blessing onto others? Are you just cursing others because you feel you're better than them or above them? Go ahead.
And it shall be, if thou do at all forget Yahweh thy Elohim, and walk after other mighty ones, and serve them and worship them, I testify against you this day, that ye shall surely perish. As the nations which Yahweh destroyeth before your face, so shall you perish because you would not be obedient unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
Let's go to Yohanan chapter 6, and we're going to start at verse 23. That's John chapter 6 and verse 23. And for some people, their money is their God. I was having to explain that to someone, John chapter 6 and verse 23. I was explaining that to someone a couple of days ago, and they couldn't understand what I meant by that. So you got to understand that once you got money and you feel that it can take care of all your problems, what is Yahweh? You get into legal difficulties, shell out some money and get myself a lawyer. My money did this for me. You hungry? You stop and you get some food. My money did this for me. So after a while, there's no balance there of spirituality and finances. Because all you looking at all that your money can get for you and all your money can do for you. So then the scales have tipped in the wrong direction. But money is nothing but a tool. And it's only as good as you use it. That's all. But at the same token, in the use of it, are you using it for righteousness? Or are you using it for your pleasures, your desires, to make yourself look good? He said in the wilderness, your raiment didn't wax old on you. But boy, some of us walk through the door with the cleanest of raiments and look great on the outside. Sit around and talk to them and watch their movements. The garments might look wonderful, but the inside person is awful. So, for those of y'all who can't afford certain raiments, don't let that get you down. Get the inside shining and gleaming. Get that inside man looking great. Because you know what? After a person sits down to get to truly know you, it's that inside man that counts. It's that inside man that's going to show beauty or ugly. Go ahead.
John chapter 6, verse 23. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias nigh unto the place where they did eat bread, after that the master had given thanks. When the people therefore saw that Yeshua was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum, seeking for Yeshua. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when cameth thou hither? Yeshua said unto them, Yeshua answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled.
Now, look at what they went through. They jumped on ships. During that day and time, I don't know if they had to pay for the voyage, but they taking ships to go where he's at. And the first thing he say, y'all ain't seeking me for the word. Y'all looking for food. So if they had to pay you, you're kind of wasting your money. You're wasting your time. They went on a journey. But seeking the wrong food. Go ahead.
Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto the everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you. For him hath Yahweh the Father sealed.
Labor not for the meat. Don't do your works for the meat. But the question is, do you have any works? Do you do any works? Even if it's for the meat, do you do any works for the meat? Or do you just come into the house of Yahweh to make merchandise of his servants? Go ahead.
Then they said unto him, What shall we do that we might work works of Elohim?
Now, I'm sure this wasn't all of them that asked this question. But these are the people who were cut to their heart, who had a heart, who had some type of conscience, and realized, I think he's talking about me. Let me figure out what I need to do to fix that which he sees inside of me. Go ahead.
And they said therefore unto him, What sign showeth thou then that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Yeshua said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of Elohim is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. Then they said unto him, Master, evermore give us this bread. And Yeshua said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you that ye also have seen me and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will not give wise cast out.
I will in no wise cast out.
For I came down from heaven not to do mine own will, but to do will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that of all which he has given me I should lose nothing, but shall rise it up again at the last day.
So how many of us consider and would like to know whether we are one of those that was given to Yeshua? Are we doing the works necessary to be one of those that's not lost? All of us are sitting here. We were lost at one point. But will you voluntarily choose to stay lost, not because you're here means you're in the Word. There are people who are just around the Word. Yehudas Iscariot was around the Word. And we saw what his outcome was, because he wasn't in the Word. Cephas, Peter, was in the Word and made mistakes, but with heartfelt repentance, he was able to get back on the path. Saul started out around the Word and then was brought into the Word. When he was brought into the Word, he realized how much he trampled on the Word before coming into the Word. And made a whole 360-degree change to the point that he went to Cephas, Peter, to address certain situations that he felt was interfering with his job. Go ahead.
John chapter 6, verse 40. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The Yehudis then murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven.
Now, why are they murmuring? All these things, what is it? Verse, let me see. Verse 34. Then said they unto him, Adonai, evermore give us this bread. Them jokers wasn't thinking about spiritual bread. They were thinking physical bread. Now we jump down to verse 41. They feelings hurt. Because they wanted some bread out the oven. But now this man talking about eat his flesh. This man talking about he's the bread. They got a problem. Man, we want to eat some bread. I don't want to hear about bread. Go ahead.
And they said, Is not this Yeshua, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it that he saith, I came down from heaven?
Now they got a problem. Man, he ain't got no bread. This is that joker from around there. That's Yosef boy. Why are we even listening to him? Go ahead.
Yeshua therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will rise him up at the last day.
But see, it goes right back to what he said in the beginning. They took a trip, jumped in ships, looking for him. What did he say? Y'all ain't seek me because y'all come for the true food. Y'all coming because y'all were fed to the full. Is that why we coming, folks? Man, at the UCI, boy, them sisters put together a good Sabbath meal. But then you ask them, what was the sermon about? I don't know. The sword swinging left and right throughout the whole Sabbath sermon. And it ain't touching some folks no kind of way. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a bird's eye view. So I can see when people wince, and I can see when people drop, and I can see who is touching and whose heart is penetrating. Then you got them there, like it mentioned, they just stone-faced, adamant rock. Why? You ain't talking to me. I'm perfect. Are you perfectly lost? Because none of us in this room is perfect in righteousness. Go ahead.
John 6, verse 45. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of Yahweh. Every man, therefore, that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of Elohim, he that seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness, and are dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof, and not die. I am the living bread which came down from the heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world.
Now here it is. The perfect meal. Being completely fed also involves this book. This is your spiritual food. The natural food is fine, but we all know that the natural food is killing us. The spiritual food also has healing in it. So we got to figure out, when we sit down to eat that meal, are we having it with that bread of affliction? Or are we having it with the bread of everlasting life? And since we done talked about food and this new moon, let's go ahead and get our new moon feast on. Shalom, family.
Shalom.